another episode of The Spoken You with Jeff and Brett. Hello, and welcome everybody. So glad you could join us here on The Spoken You in our discourse to seek knowledge. From knowledge comes wisdom, but it's preceded by questioning, and that's what we're here to do. Today the topic is the wood to your fire, the spark to your engine. We're talking about motivation behind your passions. What makes someone more motivated than someone else? Somewhere along the line we've all had a passion, but for one reason or another we've failed to see it through to the end. For some it's altruism, others money and greed, but I think we need to dig a bit deeper on what makes one motivated. I want to paraphrase a proverb. Well, it's not really a proverb, but something I heard someone say once, and look at the overall picture behind this idea. I heard that a person that's rich in monetary terms, that loses it all, will sooner become rich again before someone who is poor attains that same level of richness. I'd like to tackle this idea from a motivational sense, not from a goal-oriented money sense, although it certainly can be the case. So, Brett, let's start simple. When's a time in your life that you've been motivated, and what were the circumstances around that motivation?
Oh, mate, I gotta say, when I rocked up this small island in Fiji at 24 years old, there was something called the Fiji Experience that used to rock up with busloads of, people my age in their early to mid-20s from all over the world. And on our island that we were working on was one of the highlights. And, it was an amazing opportunity as a massage therapist to work for 10 hours a day. So money was a motivator, but it was the first time in my life where I was on this island. I felt like I had this role as like the healer. I don't know if you've seen the movie Club Dread, but there was a certain, how shall I say, feeling of belonging, connectedness with everyone else on the island, where from the locals that were working there, to my buddies, a scuba diver who had gotten me the job to begin with, to the managers who were a family, amongst other people who were working at the resort. And it was just this amazing way to heal massive amounts of people. I was living in a tent in a small coconut grove and was pulling in about $4,000 American per week doing all this massage. So I definitely wouldn't say, this is the high season, mind you, I wouldn't say that money wasn't a motivator, because it was. But on the same token, the ability to create this level of connection with all these people, where later on, as I continued to do it, word got out and people would fly all the way from Australia or New Zealand just to spend 5 days, 7 days. A group of older women who had been hunting for the greatest massage on earth was told about, or were referred to me, and they ended up come and hang out with me for 10 days, and reckoned I was the best healer they'd ever been with. Who knows if that was authentic or not, but definitely got a lot of praise, both financially and also got these deep connections with people as well. So that will last a lifetime. How about you?
Well, I don't know personally. I can take something right now that we're doing, and it's this podcast. So, before I met you, I don't know that I would have maybe ventured on this journey, but I guess it's the connection with somebody else, like you're talking about, this idea that somebody else can potentially fuel that motivation to see a journey or a passion that you have be fulfilled. And with you, that's something that has definitely happened on this journey. I don't think without your level of enthusiasm, ability to connect with the audience the way that you do, have a similar energy and feeling to what I'm feeling, would I be as motivated to continue this podcast? So, that's a small example, but it's something that I'm currently passionate about, and I can relate to your answer as far as connectivity goes with somebody else. But I'm kind of curious, because there's a lot of people that I've seen outside of my personal connection that I sit there wondering often what motivates them. And I'll give you an example. The scenario that we've probably heard, the single mom that's busting her butt, working 3 jobs, raising her kids, puts the kids to sleep, then stays up all night and starts studying for her secondary education because she wants to better herself somehow. This isn't everybody. This is takes a certain breed of person, and I don't know if you've met anyone like this. Do you have a personal experience with someone like this? But what are your thoughts? What's that fuel there? What fuels that person? I know you can't speak. You might not be that person, but in your observation, what fuels that person?
Not to come off too idealistic, but especially in the case of a single mom who have met both and had one myself for a while too, not with 3 jobs, but definitely a motivated individual to say the least. It's love, man. I mean, it's about making a better life. And I think it's what motivates people to walk across a desert and, what's going on in Syria, not to open up that can of worms, but I think it's beyond survival. It's almost this core desire to make the next generation a bit better. And I think it's when you wake up every day and you see those smiling faces, they're the ones that push you out of bed, and the desire for them to know a better life and to be able to go on a small vacation, even if it's just camping in the backyard if it needs to be. But I think there's really driven people in this world that are content with just family, and I think having, and I'm sure you know them as well, are those people that sweep the floors and clean the sheets at hospitals and do the undesirable tasks and maybe take 3 or 4 of those jobs, and they do it because they just want to be with their family on the weekends, or even if it's just one day, and be able to share something with them. And you can see that all over the world, and that motivation to get up every day and not find it daunting, to not maybe find meaning in their career, but rather all the benefits that come from the downtime and the quality of that.
I think you touch on a good point, but a point that's not too often looked at. And you're looking at motivation from the idea of this positive emotion, this emotion to wanting to spend time with family. But often, I think society sees motivation from the other side of the coin, that negative side emotion that we could say is a negative emotion, and motivation fueled through anger, revenge, humility, suffering, ideas like that, breaking up with the next girlfriend and wanting to hit the gym and look better, and that's your motivation to fuel that passion. Motivation, I look in like the sport of UFC or fighting, or somebody disrespected them in some way, and now I'm going to train harder or do better, and I'm motivated by this coming from a place of negativity rather than the topics you're talking about, which would be more of a positive motivation of wanting to spend time with family. I'm wondering, at least from a society standpoint, why do we I tend to think that people look at motivation from some of those negative emotions.
Yeah, very much so. I get what you're saying. I think it was Malcolm Gladwell. He wrote a book about, what was it, Samson and Goliath? Was that?
David and Goliath.
David and Goliath, yeah. And how a lot of these people who were underdogs essentially ended up having a reason to fight. And I'm not sure if it was another book he wrote. I often confuse them. But about how people have found success, despite both of their parents dying or, having some sort of early on trauma. But I think often that's what fuels the fire for people. It's a place of lack. It's a place of lack within. It's a place of isolation, maybe an early on trauma, maybe the more I look into personality disorders that are associated with the most successful people on earth, whether it's Steve Jobs or the Microsoft dude, what's his name?
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates, exactly. There's something in them early on that kind of triggers, this need to kind of take over the world and dominate. But I think it comes from a source of lack, or maybe getting picked on as a little kid, bullying and this sort of thing. And I think maybe that's why sometimes people become a cop, too. I have a lot of friends that are police officers, and I respect how they get up and put themselves in the line of fire every day. But a lot of cops do not have that motivation to make the world a better place, but rather they were picked on in high school, and then they get buff and learn how to wield a gun and use their power for dark, not good. So I think it's generally comes from a place of lack or darkness that then people try to swing the pendulum to get the upper hand.
I think that's a very valid point, because that brings me to my next topic, which is looking at the other person, the person that doesn't have motivation, the one that can be seen as lethargic, or they should be motivated. There's no reason they shouldn't. And what I mean by, I don't know if you've met this person, but I've definitely met this person. It's the person that's had a relatively good childhood, has had a secondary education, and they're just sitting around twiddling their thumbs, and they can't figure out how to get out of their own way to even get motivated about something. And you're talking about this fighting this adversity or this bullying or something like that in these people's early on in their lives that they're kind of rebelling against to create this level of motivation that kind of, funnels down to the point of, if we don't have this adversity, if we don't have this, can we create a self-motivation? Is there some ability that it's a switch that can be flipped on or off of, if we are lethargic and we just don't have that level of motivation, can we just simply flip a switch and all of a sudden become motivated?
A lot of that comes down to habit, right? We talk about momentum, and when you're motivated, you have a momentum. So it's easy. It's the habit is the momentum. The habit is the motivation. You wake up in the morning and you know what you've got to do. But I think whether you want to call it laziness, sloth, apathy, what have you, there's a lot of people in society that don't really feel driven, and it's because they have no momentum. They have no motivation, because it's a lot harder to kind of run your fastest from a stopped position, right? If you're already walking fast, if you're already to start to pick up the pace is a lot easier than if you're sitting there and then you're like, all right, go run a lap, so to speak. So I think it's that momentum that propels people, and fundamentally you have to want it. You have to even want to walk. I see it in the healing world all the time. A lot of people use their injuries as a crutch. So it starts out, oh, my knee hurts because it's raining, I won't take out the garbage, can you please take out the garbage? And then they begin to use that for everything. They don't want to walk the dog. They don't want to make dinner. They don't want to go on vacation. And they use this knee or whatever ailment as their crutch to keep themselves, sedated in that habit of lethargy. So I think even, in terms of healing, and in terms of people, getting through, how should you say, fatal illnesses or things that where you're given a death sentence and their optimism and their, you'll never walk again, says the doctor, and you get the person who is committed to walking again and transcends the prognosis. So that's a motivation. People are motivated to walk again, and some people, simply aren't, so the question is what lies behind as that fire, that fuel to maybe, transcend the limitations that are put upon them. And maybe it's that darkness, it's that lack, it's that, it could even be something as much as being afraid to be alone, because a lot of people hate that. Maybe that's why they're on the phone and they're a really good salesperson, that they're running away from something. So I don't know if success is necessarily a barometer of positive motivation. Some of the most successful people in the world are massive narcissists, and they have no empathy, and they don't really connect well with others because they're just, everyone is just a reflection of themselves, and when they look out at the world, all they see is how it affects them.
I have a couple points I'd like to talk about in your response regarding. I thought the momentum point that you brought up is a key factor. Because the things that you were describing about momentum,